Hello, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all keeping well. I hope this COVID-19 lockdown isn't getting anyone down too much. We're coping. We'd rather be doing other things, as I'm sure everyone else would. But as photographers, we're basically artistic people, I think, in the main. And that causes us to actually think of new ways to explore the art form, which is photography. Anyway, this video isn't about art, it isn't about photography as such, it's about a camera, or two cameras in particular. This time last year I had a Fujifilm GFX50R with the 32-64 lens, zoom lens. I bought it. I thought I was actually going to get on really well with it because I had believed and heard all this hype about medium format, and I'm always sort of keen to try new things, and I did actually get that camera and only that one lens, and I took it away to Wales when we went for a brief long weekend when we picked up our Pippin, the puppy. I took the camera with us to Montgomery. Anyway, long story short, about 2 weeks after I'd actually taken possession of it, I decided to return it. I couldn't quite get on with it, and I'll explain why. Luckily, I buy my cameras from Park Cameras, which are based in Burgess Hill. They also have an office in central London, Oxford Street, I think. But I think their main warehouse is Burgess Hill, which is about a 40-minute drive for me. And I've been using them for most of my photographic equipment for several years now. And they're very kind, because what they do is if you don't get on with something and you return it with no marks and no damage or anything, they'll actually take it back into stock and give you, in my case, a full refund. So I took advantage of that and actually did get a full refund on it. Why didn't I keep it? Okay, this is the baby I've been using. This is obviously my Sony A7R4, but a year ago I had an A7R3, and for practical purposes they're pretty much the same camera. The Mark 4 version's got a few nice additional little features which the 3 didn't have, but in terms of image quality you'd be hard pushed to tell the two apart, even though one's 42 meg and the other one's 62 megapixels. The GFXR, I thought a medium format, I'd heard a lot about medium format being, in brackets, a better size of pixel, and consequently you get more dynamic range and everything. And I couldn't believe that that was the case, so I had to try it for myself. When I got the camera, I had it, as I say, for only a few weeks, and I took quite a lot of pictures with it in various locations, and one of which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is of our local church. It's not particularly interesting as a picture, it's interesting from the point of view of what the picture tells us about the quality of the image from the camera. I found the camera very big, very heavy, very cumbersome. It didn't have a lot of the things I've got used to, for instance, image stabilization. It didn't have anything like that. So you were, to get the best out of what it is a 50 megapixel camera, you did need to use a tripod, you did need to be more methodical in the way you worked. I thought that would appeal to me, slow me down a bit, because I tend to be a bit trigger happy with the camera and take more pictures than I need and don't think about them perhaps as much as I should do before I take them. Anyway, long story short, I found it a chore, quite bluntly. It was slow to set up, it was heavy, it was bulky, and the image quality is better, and I'll show you the same image taken with the GFXR, and last weekend I went out and used my A7R4 virtually from identical position. The lighting was slightly different, but that won't alter the image quality particularly. And I took the same image, so that I've got two images taken at pretty much the same focal length of the same church, and I'm comparing them in Lightroom, and I'll switch across to showing you the Lightroom part in a second, and I'll talk you through what it is I see between the two images from the two different cameras. Safe to say that I'm quite pleased I didn't keep the GFXR. I think the Sony, for me, is a better camera in terms of how I use it, what I want from it, so on and so forth. Anyway, without any more ado, I'm going to switch you across to a screencast in Lightroom, and I'll show you the two images that I'm talking about. Okay, here we are in Lightroom. I've got both images loaded in synchronized panels, or panels next to each other as it is. The left hand image is the GFX-R's image. Unfortunately that was taken on a day where the sun was blocking the blocked by clouds, and the one I took last weekend was in bright sunlight later in the day, so they're two quite different images in terms of the lighting, but it shouldn't alter the resolution and the way the lenses represent the image in question. I've cropped them so they're pretty much exactly the same. I haven't lost much information off them. I've just tried to make them look as similar as possible. So if we look very closely and zoom in one-to-one on a part of the GFX image, and then zoom in on one-to-one the same part on the Sony image, you can see quite clearly that there is definitely more detail being represented here on the GFX-R compared to the Sony on this side. For instance, this downpipe, cast iron downpipe, is quite clear to see the detail. For instance, this little bracket holding it, you can see the detail. On the Sony image it's not as clear, that particular part of it. If we scroll around the image, let's take this part where the sky comes into contact with the roof. You would be hard pushed to notice much difference between these two images, I suspect. The highlighting on the side of this makes it look a bit more detailed than perhaps it is. The roof line here on the two church roof sections, the GFX image I think is definitely a clearer image. There's no sharpening or noise correction being applied to either of these images, but I just come away with the feeling the GFX image is a cleaner image. And in general, given the way I like my photography to be as cut glass crystal sharp as possible, and invest quite a lot of money in the lenses and the cameras to get to that, I still think that for the advantage of what I'm getting from the GFX-R, the penalties of having it from its size, its weight and its operational issues compared to the Sony, I simply can't get round to wanting to use it. And I'm still stand by what I said earlier, that I think I'm quite happy with the fact that I sold it, or at least took it back, and have soldiered on with my my Sony equipment, and I think that'll be the case for some time. It's also interesting to note that the right hand image, the Sony image, is a 62 megapixel image, and yet a 50 megapixel camera on a one-to-one basis is actually pulling out more detail. Oh well, I'm happy with the Sony. It's small, it's light, it's easy to have with me. It's much easier than having the Fuji. Anyway, I hope you found this little comparison useful, and for any of you thinking of getting the Fuji, by all means give it a try, and it might suit you more than it suited me. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are very happy with theirs, and certainly the lens quality on it is stunning. That is really a very, very nice lens to be able to pull that sort of detail out. I thought my Sony G Master lens was good, but the Fujifilm's lens is definitely resolving very, very well indeed. Anyway, I hope you found this informative. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and please also subscribe so that you get notified when I upload new videos.